Hi, many thanks for joining us. My name is Richard Wiseman, and just starting this webinar, all to do with some introduction to census data at the UK Data Service. I'm here with my colleague Justin Hayes. I'll be doing the presenting and we'll be answering questions at the end, both of us. Right, I have another question for you right away. Have you used census data before? And again, you should be able to see the poll, and we've got a few answers here. So 2011 area count, which is also known as aggregate data or area statistics, other 2011 census outputs, earlier area counts or other census outputs. And most people have answered, and what I'll do is just close that poll and I'll share the results. So you hopefully should be able to see the results. But yeah, so 18% of people have used 2011 area counts, got 12% other outputs in 2011, and again another 12%, and nobody for earlier censuses, and 76% not yet. Well, that's good. This is a very introductory webinar all to do with the census. Okay, so what is the census? So the census is primarily there to count the population. So in the UK, we don't have a population register system, unlike a lot of other countries, which means that we don't have a lot of information concerning how many people live in the country and where they are based. So this is the purpose of the census, to find out how many people and what characteristics they have. So this could be age distributions for an area, so you can decide where best to put schools or care homes, for example. So as the census covers almost everyone in the country, and it aims to be a full count, it's possible to have outputs available at small geographical areas, and this makes the census very unique. And the census informs public spending, such as the allocation of public spending. And it's also used as a benchmark for many other statistics and skill centres, so it's used a lot. When I say the census, we're actually talking about three in the UK, so we have three separate census agencies. There's the Office for National Statistics, which covers England and Wales. In Scotland, there's NRS, National Records Scotland. There's NISRA in Northern Ireland, which is the Northern Ireland Statistics and Research Agency. So although there's a lot of coordination between the agencies and much of the data are comparable, there are some differences. So Northern Ireland, for example, has different questions concerning religion. Scotland didn't ask the question concerning passports held. It's just something to be aware of. Much of the data is comparable and it's harmonised where possible, but there's some differences. So how was the data collected? Well, since 1841, apparently, the census has been collected by self-completion, and this is where the household receives a form and the householder fills it in themselves. In 2011, it was we used a post out and post back, but there was also an option to complete it online. So around 15% of people in England and Wales filled it online during 2011. So next time around, they're planning on having online completion as the default method. So by using post out and post back as opposed to sending people out to deliver and collect forms means that the census agencies could focus their resources on areas which are harder to count. So I have another question for you. So which of these will you find in the census outputs? So household characteristics, housing conditions, sexuality, information about income, information about employment characteristics. And you can choose as many of those as you would like. Okay, that's most of you who voted, so I'll close the poll and I'll share the results. Okay, so you can see 100% everyone said household characteristics who voted, and that's right, you can get those out of the census. Same with housing conditions, there's quite a few questions to do with that. So sexuality, that's the question that isn't on the census form, and income isn't either, but employment characteristics is. So the reason why you can't fit all the questions people want to answer on the census form, they try to keep it as short but as useful as possible. And income is something that people always want to know about. It's a shame it's not on there, but the reason being is the census agencies have tested this in the last few censuses. However, there's a tendency for response rates to drop when the question was added. So the priority is for the census to be as an accurate population count as possible. So questions which may result in a drop in the response rate were excluded. So that's why we don't have income on there as a question. For sexuality, although there are questions on, there isn't a question on sexuality, but there is a question on civil partnership. It's not quite the same thing, obviously, but a question on sexuality wasn't asked because, similar to income, it's felt that it might be too intrusive and might affect response rates. So remember, the form goes out to households and they're going to fill in the form on behalf of everybody in the household. And this might be information that some people aren't willing to share. So that's just a bit of reasoning behind that. Okay, so what questions were asked? I'm not going to go through all of these, but there are questions about demographics, so simple stuff about age, sex, marital status, country of birth, ethnicity, religion, and new for the 2011 census was passports held. There's questions on language. National identity, again, was a new one for 2011. So there was quite a focus in the last census to do with stuff relating to migration. There's also stuff to do with households, like tenure, accommodation type, amount of availability of cars and vans, central heating, number of bedrooms, and there's questions on socio-economic, so there's general stuff about health, it's very broad categories, unpaid care, and stuff to do with economic activity, qualifications and occupation, and so on. So just to show, it covers a really wide range of different topics and it's fairly broad. So in order to get a complete count, it was necessary to establish a good quality address register. So since forms are being sent out, you want to make sure that they're actually going to places where people actually live. So this was done with a lot of cooperation with local authorities and other organisations. You obviously don't want to be using an outdated address list. There was a goal to get a response rate of 94%, and 94% is incredibly high by the standard of most surveys, for a standard survey, but a response rate of 65% maybe for a standard survey would be considered good. So the high goal reflects that filling in the census is a legal obligation, and there were also a goal not to let local authorities go below 80%, so these goals were met. So in common with other surveys, lower response rates were found for young men and those born overseas and those who live alone. So it does matter if some groups aren't counted, as this will introduce bias. In order to get a full count, they undertook a coverage survey to see who they captured in the survey compared to the census, and they estimate who was missing. So the census data isn't just about the people who were enumerated, it also includes estimations for the people who were missed. So if certain groups are not counted, it introduces biases basically, so that's why it's so important to do that work. So there's quite a bit of detail on this if people are interested on the ONS website. So another critical thing about the census data is the promise of confidentiality. Respondents are assured that their data will remain confidential for 100 years before being made available to the public. So there is a legal obligation for the census agencies not to make data available unless it is non-identifiable. This does have implications of the type of data that can be released. So if you think about the sort of things that can be released, the level of detail is critical. So you might be able to get lots of information about where someone lives, or you might be able to get lots of information about their socioeconomic characteristics. So for example, if you knew somebody age 41 who lived in a certain country, maybe Norway or somewhere, that wouldn't be enough to identify them in the whole of the UK, as lots of people in the UK will probably meet those criteria. But if this data was available at a small geographical level, and you knew that area very well, then it might be possible to identify them. So generally, what we're trying to say here is that there is a trade-off between the amount of geography and the amount of socioeconomic detail. Demonstrates that aggregate data is here. We have, and I'll talk about these data types in a moment, some safeguarded microdata here, and controlled data is where you get a lot more detail, but you have to go through more hoops to access it. Okay, so just to tell you about the different census outputs that we have in the service. So there's microdata, and these are samples of census records, individual level data, which I'll talk about in a minute. There's also aggregate data, which are data aggregated to areas, sometimes known as area statistics. There is flow data, which shows flows between one area and another, and boundary data, which allows you to map the other data. So what we don't have in the service is longitudinal microdata, which is available through a sister service called Calls. And the URL is there on the screen. So microdata, so just again a little bit more detail, this is individual level data, and that's very much like the sort of data you would get if you conducted the census yourself. You won't get the full details, though, obviously, to prevent identification. So for country of birth, there might just be a couple of categories, as you can see in this example. So the details depend on which data. It's sample data between 1 and, I believe, 10%. But remember, the census is big, so you're still getting a lot of data. So census microdata, it's very flexible. You can create your own tables, can combine characteristics, create new ones, define subpopulations, and undertake multivariate analysis. But it's sample data, means that results are estimates, and geographical detail is limited. I'm not going to go through all this, but these are the different types of microdata. So access depends on what sort of sample it is, basically, and how detailed, but it goes 1%, 5%, 10%. And that's for 2011, so there's much more detail about that on the website. So if you're interested in that sort of census data, take a look there. Okay, so the next sort of data I'm going to talk about is data about areas, and this is known as aggregate data often, and it's counts usually of people or households, although there are other units with particular combinations of characteristics for an area. The areas vary from large, so country level, England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and so on, down to very small areas such as output area level. And so an example of aggregate data might be the number of females aged 30 to 34 who are married and live in private rented accommodation in the county of Devon. And so if you split up the country into lots of areas and you counted those people possessing certain attributes, that's what aggregate data basically is. So there could be 17 people who live there, 59 people live there, 22 people live there, and so on. And this is what the data would look like if you downloaded it in one of our interfaces. So you can see it's simply a table, and each row refers to a certain area, and then each column is certain attributes. So there's 48 people aged 16 to 24 who follow the Muslim religion who live in Carlisle. Census aggregate data comes in lots of geographical levels. Here's just an example of the ones from the 2011 census. So we have all of these in our application infuse, which I'm going to do a demonstration of at the end of, towards the end of the presentation. But you can see there's country levels, there's regions in England, local authorities, which will also include unitary authorities and what they're called in the different countries, all the way down to output areas, the smallest level of geography. And that's around, I think it's about 100 recommended 125 households for each area, so very fine level of detail. Okay, we actually host 1971 to 2011 data, and we have two different applications that serve this data. So there's our newer application called Infuse, and CASWeb is for our older data. And just to demonstrate there that for 81 and 71 we don't have Northern Ireland data, but we have UK level data for the other countries. And some URLs, so CASWeb, as I said, our older interface, the select-by table, open to everyone, there's nothing restrictive, it's all census aggregate data that anybody can access. And our other application, Infuse, again, I already said it has 2011 UK data. It does have 2001, but only for England and Wales. CASWeb has all the rest of the data. We integrated the metadata. You have the choice now to select by topic or by geography. It makes it really easy to find the data that you're looking for. And it's open to everyone. And we're really looking for feedback on our tools as well. And there's surveys you'll find when you go into at least Infuse and CASWeb. So we do encourage you to fill them in and let us know what you think. So I've got another poll for you. So from census aggregate data, what percentage of people in the 2011 census say they have no religion? So you should just be able to see that now. Great, I'll just give you a bit more time to answer. Okay, and I'll just close the poll and you should see the results, and I'll just share them. Okay. That's great. I think, although the next slide should hopefully tell me that the answer was 25%. Let's have a look. You should see the chart now. That's just an example of what census aggregate data, what you can get out of it, a very simple example. Okay, so as well as as well as aggregate data, we also have boundary data, and we have 1971 to 2011 boundary data for not just census boundaries, actually, beyond that, other ones as well. In fact, some of them go further back in time. Most of this data is open. Some of the older stuff is restricted to UK academia, that's for the higher education. It's in a variety of GIS formats, so such as shapefile, and it's delivered through two main applications: easy download, where you just get everything for a single country, a boundary data selector where you can filter through and get the geographies for select them. We also have an application called Thematic Mapper as well, where you can do some simple choropleth maps as well. So, as I said earlier, here we have all of these different 2011 geographical boundary data, which you can match up with the aggregate data at all these different levels, and many more in fact. And this is what boundary data looks like. So it's just the lines marking out where the areas are. But it gets more interesting once you combine boundary data and aggregate data, for example. And here's just a map I created on people born in the UK who have no passport. So it's percentage of people for all these different areas. And you can see the darker green is the larger proportion of people who don't have a passport. And I got this from topic combination of country of birth by passports held, and there must have been a category in there that said no passports. Okay, so the final set of data I'm going to talk about briefly is flow data. And flow data is actually just a special type of aggregate data where there is an origin and a destination. And there are two main types. There's commuting and migration. So commuting data is the difference between place of work and place of residence. And migration is derived from place of residence at census day compared with the usual residence in the previous year. So there was a question on the census form asking what their usual address was 1 year ago, so that's where it came from. We have 1981 to 2011 census flow data, and I believe there is also some non-census flow data too in there, such as NHS patient registers. The 81 to 2001 data is all open, but not all of the 2011 data is open access. Some of it requires authentication. And it's restricted to, I think it's basically not for commercial use, it's restricted to UK academia, but government staff, NHS, research councils, so on, can access it as well, and you just need to contact us if you can't access it for whatever reason through the help desk. All accessible through an application called Wicked, and you can find that on our website. And this is just a very simple table from Wicked showing travel by train for some local authorities. And you can see, so the origins are here and the destination there. And the line down the middle, the diagonal line rather, shows people who travel by train but within the same local authority. And that's just what flow data is. So you can access all of this data I've been talking about through our website, ukdataservice.ac.uk, and I'm just going to come out of the presentation and show you the website. So I'll just do a little quick demo of the website, and then we'll look at our application, Infuse, and maybe even CASWeb if we have time. So ukdataservice.ac.uk is our website, and there's a number of different ways you can get to the census data. You can search if you know what you're searching for. If you scroll down and click census data, you'll come to the census subsite. So there's general information about census support, but this is how you would get hold of the census data so divided by the different data types here. Under Use Census Data, while we're here, I might as well show you there is some stuff under about UK censuses. So we have a load of PDFs under census forms, because sometimes I think it's really useful to go and look at the original form so you can see how the questions were worded in the first place, and you can see, and if you're a little bit puzzled about something not appearing, then you can see if actually that question was asked, depending on the census in the country. We do have PDFs and the definitions and stuff, so for 2011 we try to pull out most of that information and stick it in our application Infuse as well, but this is where that information comes from. But anyway, let's get straight to the data because it's probably more interesting. So if we go to Get Census Data again, you see those different data types, and if we click on Aggregate Data, we will see that. And we could go to Infuse, our latest one, so it's infuse.ukdataservice.ac.uk. As I said, we have 2011 UK data there, or 2001 England and Wales. We'll go to 2011. Now we have recently introduced this geography option as well. You can decide which way you want to start with, by your geography or by your topic. And the reason is, as I was saying earlier, not all census data is available at all geographical levels, and for all countries even. So I'm going to click on Geography, and here we'll be able to pick our geography first, and that will just show us the topics that are available for that geographical level. So here it is. I mentioned earlier, if you want to give us feedback, please do, and there's a chance to win a £20 voucher. So we have all the countries here. Now you can tick as many or as little of these things as possible. So to start off, actually, I'll do just very simple. Say you want figures just at country level, England, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales. You would just tick those boxes. Scroll down, click Add. You have a preview there. Then you go Next. And here you have a filter. So anything that's greyed out is not available for all 4 countries. You're only going to see stuff that's available for all of them. And here, for example, if we look down, we can see, ethnic group. There's quite a lot of variations of that, but most of them aren't available. But this ethnic group UK harmonised this. Tick that, click Select. There's a definition here, giving you a little bit of detail of how it was harmonised, I guess. Click Next again. And then you can pick what ones you want. So let's just pick some, might as well pick our 11. And click Add. And then click Next. You have a file name, you can change that, but I'll leave it at the default. Click Get the Data, and then we need to click Download the Data. And I'll just open that up. So the download file comes with 3 different files. Citation file, it's really important to cite data. A lot of people forget to, but that tells you how to cite it if you use it. Metadata gives the descriptions, but the data file is the one with the actual numbers that you're most likely to be looking at. Did that open? Yep, there it is. Okay, so it's a very simple CSV file. Each line represents the geography selected. In this case, I only selected single country. And these columns here, so if you expand it, it's quite a long title, but that's basically all people. This one's people who are white, Gypsy, Traveller, Irish, multiple ethnic groups, and so on. So you can see all of the different ones there. Let me close that, and I'm going to run through again but show you how to select the geography more detailed, if that makes sense. So I'll click Start again. So we're here back at the beginning, selecting by geography. So we could, for example, say we wanted all wards in a certain local authority. For England, we could expand local authorities. It has lots of flexibility, the geography tree. And here we can see all of these different local authorities. So say we wanted Birmingham, we could expand that again. And so if we tick Birmingham, we'll get a figure for Birmingham, and if we tick wards and electoral divisions, so there's 40 wards in Birmingham basically. We tick that, and then if we scroll down, right to the bottom, click Add, we should see a preview of what we've just selected. Again, click Next, and now we can see, because as I was saying earlier, not all census data, particularly at the lower geographical levels, is available. So some stuff's been greyed out. So what I could go for, what should I go for? Caravan availability. We could then click, we'll go by sex. And there, straight away we've only got 2 topic combinations. I'll go for the simpler one here. Let's see what we get. Again, this is the definitions. So responses indicating number of cars greater than 20 were treated as invalid. They weren't believed. So some details of the definitions there. Click Next. And here, that shouldn't be coming up as red, but let's see how we go. And let's just pick one age group. And we'll pick just people who have 2 or more cars. And then we'll pick males and females, and we'll click Add. Great, that's come up. Then we'll go next. So we've picked those categories, but as we've only picked males and females and just one for each, we only have 2 lines, if that makes sense. Click next, and then get the data. Download, and as before, we just get a very simple CSV file. There's lots more data here now because we picked all wards, and we didn't have to tick all of the wards individually. So they're all there, and that's males and that's females with the age 25 to 34 with 2 or more cars in the household. Okay, so that's basically how Infuse works. So we've got a bit more time than I was expecting, so I rushed through things, but we could go and go back to the Census support site, and we could quickly look at CASWeb. So just to show you that we do have older census data. I mean, long term, we want to really be reducing the amount of our interfaces and getting all of this data in one interface, but we're not quite there yet. So for CASWeb, if we start that open, and this is table-based, and I'll go for a real older one, 1971. You can pick the countries you want. I'll just do England. Now you can, if you select output level, you'll just get data for England, but if you want to go lower, you can select counties. Let's click on Cornwall. And then you could just get the figure for Cornwall by clicking here. If you go further down. So what I'll do is click select output level. By default, it's giving you county Cornwall, but there's districts, wards, and ED is enumeration districts, the smallest level. So I could click ED, and this will give me all EDs in Cornwall. So click select data. Lots of different tables there. Let's click country of birth, click select variables. There's not a huge amount of detail in here, but this is the country of birth. It's available here by sex. But I take that, and then we click, and this is a step that's probably most easily missed in CASWeb, add variables to data selection. I moved over to the side. And all of these labels, so you don't actually unfortunately get the label text, but if you look back at the table you can find out that 439 is England, for example, 440 is, females, England, 441 is Scotland, males, then click get data. Type in a file name. You don't need to click absolute. So that's just if you're interested in the older data, but you'll probably find it easier to use Infuse. And so similar sort of thing. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions, it's good if you start typing them in now if you've not already, and we can take a look and try to answer them.